Hi there, Reality Riffing. I'm excited to drop this incredible panel I did with three gentlemen of the cosmological arts, Remington Donovan, the Peace Dealer, and my dear friend, Ricky Williams. We talked astrology, we talked metaphysics, we talked politics, we talked cosmology, and these men are just some of the brightest minds and hearts that I've met, and I was really happy to be able to be a moderator of Real Men Do Astrology panel. I hope you enjoy it. Hello, Interstellar Star School, and everyone in the future who's going to be listening to this historic conversation. I am so excited to be joined by a group of men who I think are doing such incredible work on the planet and are truly the thought leaders, and action leaders of our time. And this is a reprise, another meeting of minds and hearts between Ricky Williams, myself, and the Peace Dealer, Michael, and Remington Donovan, many of you know, is joining us for this incredible sit down to look at everything that's happening, everything that is kind of moving into 2021, which I think is going to be quite a humdinger in different ways, and just really excited to be joined by all of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So I was thinking, just because all of you, I mean, we could really spend hours on each one of you giving kind of your throwdown of wisdom and power and expertise. And so I was thinking that maybe we just do a little round robin of each one of you giving kind of your take on this eclipse and this eclipse cycle and whatever's relevant. You go where you go, and then we'll talk about it and we'll start to riff about all of that. So does anybody want to jump in first? Should we start with my Gemini? Should we start with some Geminis? Are you all three Geminis? Wait.
Scorpio. That would be profound. So we have a Gemini sandwich.
We have a Gemini sandwich.
Yeah. I have a Saturn and Gemini. So
Saturn, Gemini. Exactly.
Wow.
Should we, Michael, do you want to start us out?
Yeah, I would love to. First of all, when I got word of this, so excited. I had no idea. It's like early birthday present. But yeah, I'm glad to also be joining the talk with Remington. Thank you. This is awesome. And yeah, this is definitely a very magical full moon for me so far. It was very strange. I saw there was a lot that happened. One thing that definitely stuck out, I lifted to the wrong place and I had to get another Uber, and I was in front of Michael's carpets, and my Uber driver was called Michael, picking up Michael, that type of night. So definitely our ability to kind of perceive how much we've grown and developed. I mean, we know the universe has a very interesting sense of humor, and I feel more than ever before my co-creative role that I play. And ever since, I definitely invite everyone to look at where you were Aries season and how that with Uranus, really manifested this greater sense of your identity. Because now, since then, my awareness of myself and how I see what I mean is so much more, profound magic. And I see this as like the turning point where we can now step into Capricorn and collectively do so much more. And I'm just so excited. Thank you once again for having me. This is going to be awesome.
Thank you so much, Michael. And do you feel like any kind of discussion about the specifics of this eclipse or the next that you feel like people need to know?
Well, I think it's interesting because I love how, the major players out in the world are living up to the archetype. It's almost so obvious that this is like some type of production written by whatever galactic entities. But I would definitely say, specifically speaking, since this is happening in mutable signs, this is an undoubtedly life-changing eclipse, and nothing will ever be the same. I kind of see it as it's already happening, so your perception is adjusting to see what's been changing, how much you've ascended. What I feel personally is so many people are very hard on themselves, especially with 2020 and like the what we were taught success means versus the success we're manifesting. And I feel like so many people need to realize that, you've done such a great job. If you're lying to yourself and you believe you still, have someone to live up to their expectations, hopefully this eclipse can remind you, why you're here, and the direction to focus moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you. It's, I think, really important. You don't think of Gemini as particularly being like compassionate, at least I don't, but it does feel like there's like a mind, the mind patterns are really being reorganized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for that transmission. Who wants to go next? Ricky, you want to jump in?
It's really interesting. The full moon, was at like 8.5 degrees Gemini, and my Jupiter is at 10 degrees Gemini, and my sun is at 0 degrees Gemini. So it's up, right? And I think of talking about what's going on in the universe right now. I think a lot of it is the weather, the cosmic weather. And so if you think, a difficult transit, we call it a storm. Okay. To me, to really grasp what's going on, you have to first grasp, who am I in the storm? Am I a storm chaser or am I a cockroach? Because depending on that, I'm going to have a different response to what's going on. And so we have what's going on in the world, and then we have what's going on in the West, and then we have what's going on in our nation. And I think of it as these are all levels, as when we manifest on this plane, in this earth, yes, I think the chart represents the essence of where we're coming from, and also what we're here to express. But we're expressing that, in a family, in a culture, in a time, and so, for me, again, the place I start is I look at what's going on in my chart, and there's a fuck ton going on in my chart right now. I'm 43, so I'm going through my Uranian opposition, and in my natal chart, Uranus opposes Mercury, which rules my ascendant and my sun. So it's like this Uranus download it's real, and so. What I can speak most poignantly to is this Uranus energy. Okay. And the way I can make the connection is, again, it's right on top of my Mercury, and I'm a Gemini, which is where the moon is right now during this eclipse. And so I'm saying that because I have something to say. And so the root of Gemini is really that, is having something to say. Okay? And I think of Gemini as you see something, or you notice something, or you hear something, and the urge is I have to share this with someone, right? I have to share my perception. I have to share what I see with someone. Okay. And so as I think of, this lunar eclipse in Gemini, it really is about finding your voice. But the key to finding your voice is it starts with perception, because we can only speak about, with any intelligence, what we perceive accurately. And I think with all this stuff going down, and all the old ways of doing things starting to crumble, the gift is it's an opportunity for us to allow our old way of seeing things to crumble and to take in a fresh view of the future. Because as all these old structures are falling, the ones who can keep their wits and contact their vision and see a future and start to take steps towards creating that future. I think to me, that's what this time is about. Is really accessing our vision, and through that accessing our voice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I was just thinking about, like, there was so much traffic on the road last night. I mean, bumper to fucking bumper. And I was so happy about it. It's the first time I've ever been happy about that much traffic in California, because what it meant to me was somehow this kind of Sagittarius flare of the Sagittarius counterpoint of this eclipse is creating kind of a revolutionary spirit, but it's like a rebel for an actual cause, not just for a rebel without a cause. And I just felt that kind of Sagittarian like righteousness in the traffic, just because people obviously didn't fucking stay home. And I was really happy about that. I have Sag Moon, Neptune conjunct at this eclipse point, which of course Tashi's been telling me, be careful what you say, because you're gonna be a loudmouth over this eclipse. You're gonna offend some people, which has just been 2020 in general. But Remington, you can jump in on this, but I'm curious of any Sagittarian aspects of this that you want to bring into the thing, and then Remington will go for your transmissions.
Well, I was going to jump in on the Sag piece, because I think one of the things is as we're learning to think astrologically, the idea of a full moon is where we get the lunar eclipse is opposite signs. And so Gemini always opposes Sag. And so they really are two sides of the same coin. And I think one way to get to the heart of it is Gemini is about questions, right? About questions, about shocking the senses, seeing something new. And Sag is about, you mentioned self-righteousness. It's about what we already know. It's about what we already know. And so the balancing act here is if we have too much Gemini, we're like a butterfly going from flower to flower to flower, and we're collecting all this information, but none of it is settled and turned into knowing, right? It's more mental. So I think of Gemini as the information we learn from other people, books, friends, conversations, stories. And I think of Sag as what we learn from experience, so it's what we know. It's what we know. And so if we have too much Sag, we become the expert, the know-it-alls, and we have what we know, but we close ourselves off to any kind of new information that can expand our knowing. And so I think at in this eclipse at the full moon, we're looking at both sides of these and trying to come to a balanced place that feels better. And I think with the election, like this election to me has been a perfect example of like religion. Like if you look at especially the Trumpies, it's like this religious thing, right? It's like they know, right? They believe in this guy, right? I saw an interview where someone asked if Trump shot someone in the middle of the street, would you still vote for him? And they said yes. That's Sag, right? Where you believe in something so much. Shadow Sag.
I would still vote for him.
So much.
Michael would still vote for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the shadow Sag. That's a cool way of putting it.
Yeah.
Ricky. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was going to add, Ricky kind of jumped on a lot of things that I was going to say with the dynamic of Gemini and Sagittarius. And I'm going to pull it off the astrology chart and bring it into Kabbalah and Tarot and some of the teachings there. And I may even throw in some Bible stuff that I was taught, and I'm not like a Bible scholar. But as Ricky was saying, Gemini is the information. And the way I was taught it Kabbalistically is that's where we receive, that's where we learn to know. And in Kabbalah, knowledge only gets us so far. And it comes through, we have to have understanding. That understanding comes through experience, and then through that we create wisdom. And so that opposite spectrum of the knowledge of Gemini becomes the wisdom of Sagittarius, just like Ricky said, through that experience. And so we take what we know, we've sort of lived it, and then we share it, right? I always see Sag as this cosmic teacher and the one who's going to drop wisdom. And absolutely, that fanatical Sag energy is it's like a religious zealot. It's woke culture, and which I partly attribute to a lot of Pluto Sag generation people that are so staunch on this is the absolute penultimate truth of reality, and if you don't follow this way, it's the same thing as like the temperance movement, or like crazy anything that's fanatical. But to bring it into the Kabbalah and the tarot, and what's interesting in the magical teachings, and when I say magical, I'm talking about the esoteric, hermetic, ceremonial magic teachings of Gemini, have to actually do, well, I'll look at the Mercury. Mercury is very important in magic because all systems of divination are ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is also the Magus card in the tarot. And the teaching is the magician. And when I say magician, I can mean any sage, any devout spiritual practitioner of light and divinity, is the master of the Mercury and is the master of the illusion, right? Like a stage magician is always creating illusions, but they have an ability and an adepthood. The spiritual teaching of that is to dare and is to will. And so we use that Mercury knowledge and then we take action. But a lot of things I personally want to touch on that I've been noticing ever since Gemini season, and where I had broke down a lot of the numerology, even with George Floyd, and which I see as some level of sacrifice. And when I go deeper into the numbers, it's amazing to see the sort of diabolical miracles that have been set up. Because when you break down the numbers, and numbers don't lie, it just goes deep beyond the point where I feel like one human mind could orchestrate all of this. But the key thing is being the master of illusion, or are you going to be the victim of it? And right now we're seeing unprecedented victimhood of the illusion of misinformation. And Gemini is information, but Gemini is misinformation. And I personally noticed during Gemini, Sun in Gemini season, new moon in Gemini, in the Twin Towers, Twin Cities, 846, for example, which was the amount of time that officer had his knee on George Floyd, is this exact same time that the planes flew into the first plane hit the Twin Towers. So we have all this emphasis on twins. Gemini is the twins. And I think the misinformation is off the charts. And there's a level of censorship, especially as an American, that I never thought was possible. And I had posted even some of that stuff. Everything got shadow banned. Even my Instagram has just been gridlocked. But what's interesting is Gemini is the Lover's card in the tarot. Not to make the Lover's card is not romantic. I would not think of Gemini as a romantic energy, but it's the communication. And the Hebrew letter attributed to that is the letter Zayn, which is the symbol of a sword. And even Christ said, "Do not think I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." Now, what does that mean? It's the devolved consciousness will think that's an implication of warfare and fighting. The sword in alchemy means to separate. And what we do in alchemy is we separate the parts. We distill off and we look at what doesn't serve the evolution of our soul. We'll remove it. We'll purify it. So that sword is used as a purification.
Right.
And it's a tool of communication. And there's a contract. And the Lover's card implies there's a contract of agreed relationship that we should come together, or your parts should come together and create a new third homogeneous relationship, whether it's with yourself, with a person, with society, and it's something evolved. And that goes to that spectrum of Sagittarius, which really holds wisdom and shares wisdom.
fascinating. I'm curious, Michael, Ricky, anything, I know, Michael, you have a deep relationship with the Bible and all of those teachings, and Ricky as well. Anything you want to kind of jump in on?
I definitely want to add on. I think everything Remington said was just very amazing. And uh, it's so key to remember Gemini. It's very disinformative when it wants to be, but it's still that individual experience of truth because we're all sharing this experience now, which is real and it's true. And the individual Gemini is actually only individual zodiac sign, and that's why Virgo is so crucial because the way I'm perceiving this experience is not really going to be the way everyone else is, and so Virgo is the social mutable sign where we have to debate with Libra and actually confer the truth we experience to flesh out well what's factual, right? If we can socially agree, this constitutes our materiality. And so major players, the Neptune, that's why I love following the Gemini and Sagittarius suns because they're getting squared by it. Especially the Virgo suns. I mean, people are the fact resistance to the Virgo energy on a whole nother level, which I think has everything to do with being a victim of misinformation. But I mean, just following that Neptune square and seeing people express that, information and perception, it's been fascinating to see that Neptune represented or media represented Neptune, like literally square ideas seen through Kanye West, Gemini sun, acting like he's crazy, seeing it, of course, through President Trump. And, it's something I'm used to as a Gemini, but, seeing it affect everyone else, Gemini energy, is very interesting. We can't say Neptune is only bad because with this eclipse, too, I feel like we're adjusting our perception to discern through the illusion and really, examine how reactions to what you say are, aligned in integrity or not. And bringing up the revolutionary energy, that was amazing because everyone really believes that their side is right. The people who are marching for A against the people who are marching for B, the only thing that they share in common is that same revolutionary energy, while the perceptual is separating and dividing. So, and I also love I think that's very key how, Jesus came to bring a sword that separates soul from spirit. Very, very, very crucial.
Yeah. And so for me, this idea of misinformation and illusion, it sounds very much like Gemini, Pisces, Neptune, Mercury. And again, thinking astrologically, right? Every front has a back. And so if we're talking about this archetypal field of Gemini Mercury communication, part of the archetypal field of communication is misinformation, is miscommunication. That's part of it. So I mentioned shadow Sag, that's shadow Gemini. And as Geminis know, we can even talk ourselves out of the truth. But this idea of Neptune, right? Part of the Neptune Pisces archetypal field is definitely the martyr or the victim, but also there's the enlightened one. Okay, and so yes, when these energies get together, part of the shadow is misinformation, is illusion. But in the same time, we have the opportunity, the possibility for enlightened seeing. And so an example here, right? Who are you turning to for your information that gives you the ability to say it's misinformation? What authority have you given to, and this is Sag, right? I don't think of Sag so much as the teacher. I think of Sag as the preacher, because the teacher is sharing what they've learned and they're trying to express, okay? The preacher is sharing what they believe, what they know, all right? And so is where it's like the big Gemini question mark is, where have you put, who have you made your authority for information? Who have you made your authority for information? And Gemini, thank God, life kicked me on my Gemini path. For me, it's my own perception. It's my own perception. And I think that's the beauty of this tool of astrology, right? It allows me to check my perception, right? In the way that I learned astrology is, I got a couple of books and I learned what the experts have said about these things. But for me, I had to perceive it with my own eyes to check out and say, okay, that makes sense. And I think astrology gives us all a tool so that we never have to experience misinformation again, because we tune our perception to tune into the energies. When you tune into the energies, no one can ever lie to you. And one of the things about Gemini and about speech, right? Before we learned to communicate through speech, lying wasn't even it never existed, right? But as soon as we had words, right? As soon as we had words, right? Because the body doesn't lie. Before we spoke through language, we spoke through grunts and gestures, right? We can't lie. And so I think this is also what's coming up is the possibility for people to be empowered to trust what they see,
Wow. I don't know about you guys, but that's some full body chills, Ricky. Thank you so much, because you're basically, I definitely think that part of these eclipse cycles, and starting, I agree, in Gemini season and in the last eclipse cycle at the solstice. And I feel like part of what's really being served up is kind of, you can look at it as different timelines, or some of the ruling kind of control elite, however you kind of position that on this planet, are trying to figure out ways to keep kind of control of the human spirit and the human consciousness, which is elevating no matter how you look at it, from whatever perspective. I think we could all agree on there is an elevation of consciousness and frequency on planet Earth. And so then you see, like I saw last night, back-to-back traffic from basically San Francisco to LA, in a state that's been notoriously dealing with kind of heavy duty kind of overreach in the government. This is, the spirit it just can't be controlled the same way. But I do think this Sag Gemini eclipse cycle is very much about the technocrats and the what's truth, what's not truth. How can it be controlled? Can it ever be controlled again? It's like trying to put a sleeping bag back in its cover. I mean, that's kind of what I feel like is happening with everything in 2020. But curious, I mean, Michael, you're very outspoken through your social media channels. Curious what you're experiencing with censorship. Me and Remington are definitely experiencing some, pretty heavy censorship. I don't know, Ricky, what's you guys' experience of this technocratic kind of situation that's attempting? I don't think it's going to work, but I do think that it's heavy in a way that it never has been, or at least we're aware of it in a way that we never have been.
It's definitely a stopgap measure. And it made me more aware that this is all an endgame maneuver. Like the desperation that's going into this is because this is the thing that they can do. It's so very important before reacting to study the psychology motivating behind what's happening, because that'll really just put everything in context. My YouTube channel has been suppressed near the start, so I was going live and my frequency getting jammed and people thinking it's my internet, but like it worked perfect for, and then people started to see I made a video debunking definitively Bill Nye. It's called Bill Nye and Ophiuchus, or debunking them. YouTube twice magically deleted it, didn't even let me know. So I mean, coming into this, I mean, they know me. I've already kind of been used to this, but I mean, just seeing this step up a notch just lets me know how terrified they are of the truth. And this is a stopgap measure. Like, there's a tsunami of the collective awakening that's going to inevitably return that karma. And I think what Ricky said was so crucial. Who is your God? Because it's quite fascinating. There was a time after the Greco-Roman sophists and philosophers were governing perception, you had the Roman Catholic Church, and the Roman Catholic Church told you what you believed. And if you said anything different, you'd be labeled a heretic, you'd be ostracized. And I just love how that's no different from the media today. You have millions of people who blindly listen to a reporter bring up authority and experts who you unfortunately have to believe. You don't know what they're saying is the truth. You have to take their word for it. And so then the Muslim who believes in Allah and the Christian who believes in Jesus Christ, you're taking up in faith what these people are telling you to believe. It's a religion, just like most science nowadays.
Yep, hear you loud and clear. And I think this is going to be kind of, I maybe you guys know, I don't know how long this eclipse cycle goes with Gemini and Sagittarius, but it seems to me like this is one of the big things on the table is information wars.
For sure.
It's definitely.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's complete information war. And then on some level, it's, kind of like what Ricky was saying too. And Michael, thank you so much for that. Is, that sort of the preacher part of Sagittarius, like everybody, it absolutely is insisting they're right. But Mercury, Gemini will get to the truth. And it was also touched on that Gemini energy is meant to be used as to be very open-minded.
Yeah.
Right. And I always joke like Gemini sees the 12 sides of every coin. But for some reason, and that's probably because of my Saturn Gemini, I am surrounded by Geminis. And I joke that I'm like a Gemini wrangler. But the evolved Geminis that I know, when you present something that's totally counter to what they were thinking, will listen and say, oh, yeah, I never thought of it that way. And that's a powerful lesson. It's taught that I was taught Saint Germain, who is a very high energy field. I was also taught he's still alive and in hiding and is hundreds of years old. Was a Gemini. And so and a bit of a trickster, right? This Gemini, Mercurial, Magus card energy is a trickster. And Sag can have a sense of humor. So in some ways, I think there's a message to say, you know what, we can still delight in all of this. And all of this is a drama and a play that we're a part of. And there's another deeper teaching that I was taught about Mercury is that once you really establish your relationship with Mercury, like once you get your Mercury game strong, it is the Mercury energy that connects with everything else. And so so Mercury is sort of a key. And when we use that, we open up the knowledge and wisdom, and we open up the knowledge to what I will call our holy guardian angel. And those are the same teachings in the way I was taught about even the idea of Christ consciousness. And not to offend, we may all have a different idea, is that it's not about, oh, here's this bro, Jesus. I was taught it was Jesus the Christ, and then Christ is a title of a very high consciousness. But when you utilize that in alignment with Mercury energy, you then have access to everything else. I am the way. And it just is like our link. It's just like we had computers, in the 80s or 90s, and then all of a sudden we had internet, we had access to everything else. Well, the hidden teaching of Mercury in magic is that Mercury is the network to divinity. So we don't have to try to go and attain these super high heights of consciousness of enlightenment on top of the mountain. Just get our Mercury game on, and now we've linked up and we're synced. We don't always have a mastery over it, but we are in a consciousness alignment. And it's a beautiful energy field. And I think too, it's the teaching of trust your authority. Your soul is your authority. What does this mean for your evolution? Because it's easy now to scroll on social media, the news. There was that documentary everyone was talking about. I personally thought it was super lame, The Social Dilemma. It was on Netflix.
Yeah.
It was like about you're a victim of your algorithm. I think you're a victim of the news. And there is a legit magical teaching that says never watch or look at the news, period. Not like I'm going to do a media cleanse, like forever. Because on one level, the world will always rise, it will always fall, politicians will come and go. But I will say in my incarnation, to see the level of control that other people have over us now, I'm like, this is affecting me a little more.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I mean, I do think that the information game, like let's take war out of it, and the information game, all great masters have mastery over this information game. They both like put out misinformation on purpose, and they're commanding the misinformation side and the information side, and it's a play. It's a play of the phenomenal world. And I agree. I thank you for bringing that into the Sag. Like, let's have some fun, because it's actually quite hilarious. And any way we get kind of gripped in the teeth of what I would call Maya, which is the illusion of the polarity, or kind of getting thrown around by that dog, that barking dog of kind of that polarity, we're gonna get whiplash. And so we have to have some fun with it. And I do think all great masters did the misinformation on purpose. You could even say Jesus put out certain misinformation that now has reverberated through thousands of years, like many Saint Germain and all many of these masters, and kind of now we're all being asked to step up to the plate to that kind of sophistication.
Can I add on to what both of you said? First of all, Jesus did put out misinformation when Peter or one of his disciples asked, "Why do you speak in these parables?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I can't let everyone know exactly what I'm saying, so I'm speaking in code," which I feel is a certain type of misinformation. And everything that Remy said about Mercury is so crucial, because we know in the Bible, Jesus said, the Christ said, I am and the Father are one. He also said, you can't get through the Father except if you go through the Son. He also said, no one knows the Son but the Father. No one knows the Father but the Son, and who the Son reveals. And I've come to find out this year, actually, this relationship is the relationship between the soul, the mind, and the body. And it really made me realize how crucial Mercury is in all that, because the sun is just your awareness. It's like a baby who's aware, but how does that baby process what is what? How does that baby know the difference between a water bottle and a stove? That processes that information. And you can't really understand how you feel or express how you feel from your soul to your sun, which we could say the soul represents where we all come from, and then the spirit is how we express it. Well, your soul is one with your body, but you need that mercurial knowing to be able to access that. So I just wanted to confirm or add on to what both of y'all said. I thought it was very
Thank you. And Ricky, you were going to jump in on this too.
Well, I mean, the topic of censorship is interesting, because my background as a professional athlete, it was really entering the NFL, it was a given that you don't say anything that'll possibly be a distraction to what we're trying to accomplish on the football field.
Right.
And so we learn to shut up and dribble or run or whatever we do. And so for me, leaving that world and slowly like waking up to the fact that I have a voice, it's been interesting. And what I found in my path is almost a reverse of censorship, where I'm being asked by people I never expected to speak on things that I assumed they would have no interest in. Mm-hmm. And I keep thinking of this idea of misinformation and putting out misinformation. And probably one of my favorite mentors was a Gemini. And when he would sit and he would have darshan and he would talk to people, people would ask him questions, and sometimes multiple people would ask him the same question, and he would give them different answers or different information.
Right.
An association in astrology to the planet Mercury and the sign Gemini are omens. Okay. And, you see signs or symbols or synchronicities, it's informing you of something. But I think for coming back to this, each of us have to decide what do I notice? What seems like it's speaking to me? Okay. And if we can tune that mechanism, it's impossible to be a victim of misinformation, because something is always communicating something to you. It's about getting that clarity of what what is that bird, or what is the fact that, the Uber driver's name is Michael and I'm right in front, like, what is this, what is the universe attempting to show me, to tell me?
I got to jump in on that. Absolutely. Like like, that's what I love about, for example, where I utilize numerology, which ties into astrology and everything else. But it's one of the ways of reading those signs, and the same thing with the astrology. But to piggyback on everybody too, and the sort of misinformation in relation and saying that, Jesus misspoke, that's something that was very much ingrained in me from very young. And that is that real spiritual teachings are so layered, and the true teachings are always evolving. And so, because as you evolve, so you may hear something some way at some level, and then who knows, 10 years down the road, you may read something again, or a holy text, and it hits you and you realize in a different way, because they're encoded and embedded with your own evolution. Does that make sense? Or they're embedded with a technique in which allows, as you evolve, you understand it. And I've watched videos of very high teachers, and I'm maybe getting ready to do a Kundalini set, and I will literally hear it one way, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so profound. I'm going to utilize this. It ties into this tarot card, blah, blah, blah. And then I go back and play it, and I'm like, wait, they're saying something completely different. So the Mercury allows us to be in alignment and to be in that sync with those signs. And, one of some of my teachers and some of the people that I read always lay out misinformation, because real spiritual teachings and real spiritual practice doesn't just come from books and talking.
Right.
And so you have to have your own spiritual experience. And so on the magical path, which has been a secret tradition and still is a secret tradition, there have been a few people that have revealed some more, and I've revealed some things. And, and those teachings had to be hidden, but now they're hidden in plain sight because there's so much information. So every Joe Blow is an astrologer writing for, like, I've seen like women's health astrology articles, and it's so whatever. Part of me used to be like, that's great. Like, it's opening somebody up and then maybe they'll find their way, But then now, lately, I've just been like, I'm over it. And I'm over the narrative of anti-conspiracy theory within, like, people that are spiritual teachers. I'm going to say this right now. In magic is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Right? Astrology is a conspiracy theory, because you're picking up on clues of symbols of hidden orchestrated energies of the cosmos. And if you don't think in terms of that way, and if you don't allow your consciousness to transcend the illusion of Mercury that's in front of us, you'll never get to the truth. You'll never use that sword, the lover's card, that is the card of Gemini, that even Jesus brought, to separate that which isn't true. And numerology is one of the greatest conspiracy theories. Spiritual teachings are conspiracy theories.
Absolutely.
And you have to, and it's not about, oh, I'm a sucker for every damn thing that I hear and believe. It's that you have to expand your consciousness to see truth. And if you are just believing everything that's dished out, especially by mainstream medical news crap, like, I never believed or grew up or was taught to buy into any of that.
Yeah.
And is that a conspiracy theory? Like, I'm gonna do a raw cleanse for 40 days, or like, that's a conspiracy because I'm going against the narrative of like germ theory and utilize host theory to make my body healthy to fight off infections. That's that's a conspiracy theory that will get oppressed and literally censored. Yeah. If you're in a spiritual path and not thinking in terms of the hidden wisdom and everything, that which is essentially a conspiracy theory, like, I don't know what you're doing.
You know what you're doing? You're doing a chaturanga, Remington. It's like, since when is like yoga, all these fucking people, since yoga and wellness, it's like, I mean, basically they're just getting bought, whether they know it or not. They're being mind controlled. But, it's like, oh, you're only allowed to wear spandex and do chaturangas. And that's, that's yoga. That's just regular, normal people yoga. I mean, it's ridiculous. I have so much to say about it, but I will.
Normie yoga.
I mean, like, they've gone so far to even to say is like, anybody who believes that 9/11 wasn't exactly the way it was reported on the news is, I mean, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is ridiculous. These people are robots, and they're just being bought and sold. And, part of this eclipse is such an opportunity to regain any place that you have sold yourself on the cheap. Okay, everybody, because you are a dignified human being that has sovereign power. So, okay, thank you, Remington, for bringing that up, because I'm really pissed off about it.
Well, we message each other a lot about that.
I of course, I was my 2020 crown jewel is that I've been named one of the top conspiracy wellness people on the planet. So I'm going to receive that award. So you guys, first of all, it's just so fun to talk to you all. It's just so powerful. You all are so amazing. I could just sit. If I could just have a couple of people on a desert island, this is my crew. But just curious, we have this solar eclipse coming up. It's in Sagittarius. We have this big event on winter solstice, which is kind of this major, this is what the Roman Empire kind of used to this Saturn and Pluto conjunction 0 degrees Aquarius. They use these types of movements to really kind of keep their power or not. Empires fall and empires rise. So, just anything about these current events and coming up into the inauguration, any predictions, anything people need to be paying attention to. Let's just throw down on some what we would call the future predictions or conversations.
Well, I think it's one thing that I came to respect about the North Node in Gemini is mutable signs are ever changing. What we see as fact now, it will not always be fact. We just entered a new second study fact, and that taught me that knowledge is constantly evolving, I guess, in this 3D continuum, or how we perceive it. But, take 2019, as soon as the North Node went into Gemini, a lot of people assumed that we were going into this trajectory. It changed. And I feel like this mutable node transit is letting everyone know that nothing is set in stone. Like, you have that predetermined energy, but like, anything could really happen. And that's just the wild card potential of Sagittarius. And so, the biggest thing about that is this perceptual war. And the biggest tactic here is to convince people that there's no war going on. There are people fighting so many fronts right now. Like, when you actually see this as an actual war, and not just like, I think some people are waiting for bombs to drop. They're waiting for CNN to tell them America is at war. And it's like, you're literally at war right now. They're entities and representatives, ideologies, which are sentient concepts infiltrating people's minds, literally driving. Think about all the people who went outside to protest because they saw something on the computer and manipulated their feelings. They felt a certain way and were driven to go out there. And narratives are getting people killed. Think about the people who have been shot at. And of course, just very interesting to examine how and I feel like that's very Neptunian, to put you to sleep and make you believe it's just a conspiracy. But you have many fronts being fought through, court battles, through people expressing their ideas and opinions. Neptune in Aries, Uranus was in Gemini, the last Civil War. And what do we have before the Civil War? The Revolutionary War, where Pluto is. So as far as predictions, context is everything. We're looking at the end of America. It's like, this is the renew the lease. One president one individual is going to bring us into the second new American Revolution. This is why he had the Nobel return. That's why his Saturn is opposite Saturn now. Ghislaine Maxwell and Barack Obama both have Saturn in Capricorn. We know what's happening with Miss Maxwell during her Saturn return. We know what's happening with Obamagate. I don't want to say any of this is good or bad because it just is, but I think, quote unquote, President-elect Biden representing Scorpio is very crucial because, having the Pluto return with America and inaugurating a Scorpio sun representing death kind of sees the end of, those ideals and everything that this country was built on. If we think symbolically, if whether you think the elections were rigged or not, if this occurs and it happens symbolically, it is the death of America. And we did have the last president as 45, which is even crazier numerologically because the 46th president will be 10 numerology, which is completion, versus 9, which can bring us back to 1. So I think that Gemini that the president has is going to be aspected by this eclipse. And, the Dawn has a trump card. I'll say that. And Uranus is all about unpredictable, unexpected, realizations. We can fully expect that to be uncovered. And the whole key to the solar return or the solar eclipse is a huge meaning and picture that we have to see so that we can now take action in Capricorn. And I mean, a whole lot is being ready to be mobilized. So I think the most crucial period is now till the moon in Virgo. We're getting real details and tangible evidence, more so than ever, of what's happening. And remember, Sagittarius is a mutable sign. And so we will see states flip from one candidate to another in light of moon and Virgo evidence. We've seen the trials come through, the hearings. So it's really just a matter of this going to the House. And, I would really also be mindful of Secretary of State Mike Pompeo having Saturn in Aquarius, for him to say flat out that we're going to be prepared to transition for a second Trump term. And he didn't say that like it's possible. He just said the world is watching. Capricorn and he graduated West Point, top of the class. So it's really making, kind of looking at the context clues, kind of looking through the deception. You have Rudy Giuliani, who is very adamant about Biden and the crime family. Like, the symbolism of this is nuts. You have vice presidential nominee Kamala Harris, who has Lucifer on her moon with her sun in its fall opposite as a Gemini rising. She's a little fallen angel. And it's just amazing how they're going against angels. Full moon Gemini, new moon Gemini, Pence and Trump. This is a huge movie. So, I mean, it's just going to be very amazing to see how this concludes. But more importantly, despite everything that's happening, this war is for you, because it's about how you perceive everything. Yeah. It's about how your kids perceive everything. So that's why I always advise, what were you doing before you got distracted by all this? Because this is the perfect time to water that focus on developing yourself during this great awakening, connecting with the right people, whereas they want us to distance, speaking the truth, whereas they want us to keep censored. So coming into the next 2 weeks, get ready to see the most radical realizations, evidence that has been had, but they strictly had to wait to reveal it. And, this war kick up quite amazingly. So I'm looking forward to it.
You heard it here. I can't see the chat because the computer died, so I'm sure people are, having all sorts of, experiences. Thank you, Michael, for, I think the I love political astrology, so not necessarily, I just love to look at everyone's charts because you can see so much of the patterns that are being played out through them or with them, or, how the thing is moving, and it's pretty fascinating. Ricky, what do you have to say about this?
Wow. Yeah. So, kind of like are you a storm chaser or are you a cockroach? And so, and when you look at astrology, there's so many different cycles, big, large cycles, like this movement into the age of Aquarius, the United States going through, coming up on its Pluto return, and so again, it's like, where are you? And for me, where I can always locate myself is inside of my life, and starting there and kind of working out. And so the way I've built my life is I don't really care that much what they are doing. I think part of skillful living is being able to express, and it's a task. And that's why we have all of these practices, because it's hard. But being able to find a way to express yourself in whatever environment you find yourself. And to me, to understand yourself, to understand the environment, it gives you the ability to take advantage of the opportunities that are there. And so, I think for me, what's coming up is the Jupiter Saturn conjunction entering Aquarius. This and it's trining. They're trining my sun as they make that conjunction. And so I feel this. And for me, I look at this year, and we've all been changed by this year, right? And for me, it's like, okay, we've all been changed. If we can stop feeling sorry for ourselves and honor, like, what's different about us, right? Because this has been I look at it as a purge, a purifying process. Yeah. The things that have been taken away from you, guess what? They needed to be taken away from you. And to come to terms with that and realize, okay, based on where I am right now, based on who I am because of these experiences, dream. I think of Jupiter. I think of Jupiter as where you need a victory. Ask for what you really want. Go for it, right? But Saturn, it's got to be something that can be made real, okay? In Aquarius, right? And this is where I say, you're a different person. You're more yourself now, or at least you have the potential to be more yourself now than you were back in February, right? And to use that to dream big and see and make a plan, right? As we come out of this funk and we move into something different, right? What are you going to contribute to the newness, to the difference, to the change? And I think it's time, if we can get out of all of the shit and get into like what's real, what we have control over, right? I think Jupiter and Saturn can help us do that.
I do too. I think this 0 degrees Aquarius is a profound moment just in the yogic science and in these ages and the Kali Yuga. Some are saying, in terms of like the Mayans and some of the other prophecy, that this 0 degrees kind of moment on winter solstice is ultimately a wormhole to the end of Kali Yuga. It could be longer, but we can actually end the Kali Yuga sooner than later, in our own personal perception and in our own personal experience and collectively. And I think that's quite fascinating, because I just feel like this 0 degrees, it's like such a wormhole into the age of Aquarius and the end of this dark age that we've been in for quite a while here on planet Earth.
All right, all my hands are raised because I got to add on all of those. And I was like, I can't interrupt. And now, Guru Jagat, you just threw me to another sort of tangent, but it all ties in. And first off, just sort of what Michael and Ricky were saying and my perspective on it. And I really appreciate and agree with all this wisdom. But they really also emphasize we have this mutable sign energy right now. And everything in magic is about adapting. And mutable signs adapt. You're a little this, you're a little that. You know how to make a transition, right? And what's interesting is the 2 of discs in tarot is Jupiter in Capricorn, and Capricorn ruled by Saturn. And these are a lot of the energies, but it's called change. And the traditional title is the Lord of Harmonious Change. And change is the only constant in the universe. The only thing that's permanent is impermanence. And then with Aquarius coming in with its can be just rattling huge changes, you just have to adapt and you have to know how to maneuver it. We got to use this Gemini energy, this Mercury energy to maneuver. And we have to use the Jupiter energy of this Sag to say, hey, I'm going to maneuver with the grace of God, really. In Kabbalah, Jupiter is mercy and the wisdom and grace and mercy and kindness and benevolence of God. So we got to take that high road within ourselves. And it's like with Ricky saying, there's all this, but we have to hone it in here. And we have to, no matter what's happening on the outside world, we have to adapt. And it's always my job, regardless of the politics. And it's been the job of all keepers of secret wisdom. What's important is that these teachings still get passed and handed down, whether it has to go underground. And I was joking with Guru Jagat the other week, and I was like, I'm doing too well to go underground. But I'm not planning on it. Everything's above board. Aquarian Age is the opposite of underground.
Yeah.
And but if we don't adapt, many people will perceive this as huge trauma. You know, all that Aquarian energy is trauma. And if you think about it, trauma is really that inability to adapt and to make a change. You're stuck, you know, you're like still trying to sell phone books, you know, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And
for those who want to evolve, this is a profound shift and a profound upgrade. But the magical prophecies say the unfit will be thrown into the discord, and this is the time to be strong.
Yeah. And
we have to adapt. And that's it. So I'm not going to make light of it. There are people just putzing around, negative side of Sagittarius. Let me just aimlessly wander and be a fuckabout and just lollygag through the inertia of life. You're going to get crushed. Yeah. And we need to be smart. Mercury is smart. It's going to assess what is true. What do I need? Who am I? How am I going to get through this? Whether it's like a walk in the park or it's some weird apocalyptic shit. Either way, we're going to adapt.
Wow. Well, yeah.
After March 21st, 2020, we had Jupiter in its fall in Capricorn, which I would suggest represents a form of famine. We have Mars conjunct there, which is war. You know, every time Jupiter conjuncted Pluto, if you check out the conjunction in Cancer and Virgo, we had the H1N1 pandemic and we had the H3N2 pandemic. Now it's back in Capricorn. We have coronavirus, which is clearly man-made because of the Capricorn planning that took place. And then, you know, it's just, once again, very fascinating. But so we can say Pluto is pestilence, and then Saturn, of course, is the reaper, death. That's a literal apocalypse cycle that started degree Aries. And so, you know, following that is also crucial. I mean, what do you feel about, what do you all feel about this new cycle that's starting, and how we came out of this old cycle or the last?
We lost you for a second. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Michael, we lost you. They turned off your Zoom.
Oh, you lost me?
For just a second at the end. Just a second at the
end. My bad.
The very end, I think. Does anybody want to jump in on this? I saw this, Michael, I saw some of your mapping of this on your Instagram. I think it's quite fascinating. Any thoughts on this?
You know, I haven't really followed this, but I think I'm going to check it out and see, because I definitely, you know, I definitely can speak to the Saturn Pluto, especially. You know, my teacher talks about Saturn and Capricorn as it's time for the karmic paycheck to come to show up, and you know. I think what's learning astrology and studying it, it's really noticing patterns. You know, we each have our own system or a way of understanding the symbols, and we notice our own patterns. And so for me, I mentioned this before, but the Pluto return of the United States, and Michael mentioned this earlier about it's a new country. Like the old America is dying, and it's time for a new America to be born. And it's like, can we learn from our past wounds, right? Can we learn from the wounds that manifest Capricorn in the structures of our government? And, you know, and I think an example of this is we're actually taking a more honest look at things like systemic racism, right? These deep wounds that are festering in America's soul. We're at a decision point, right? Are we going to take an honest look at these wounds and allow them to heal, or are we just going to re-traumatize ourselves?
Yeah.
And this is, I mean, for all Plutonian events, this is the type of questions that we answer, because in Pluto times, you know, the wounding effect will show up. But are we going to point the finger and say it's them? Or are we going to look inside and say, where have I been wounded and where can I heal? And I think, you know, this is the ending process that leads into a new beginning. And this is the opportunity we have in front of us right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Remington, do you have anything on this?
No, I really agree. And I think I'm just sort of saying the same thing. And it's, yeah, we, as individuals, we have to make that leap and that evolution. And it is like there's two timelines almost, and people are going to get caught in like fear and destruction and resentment and anger. Those are all tools of like the dark side.
Yeah.
And that's in Star Wars. Like that's how Darth Vader became Darth Vader, is because he was resentful. He couldn't like save his mom, but essentially it's just, you hold on to this resentment, you hold on to this past and your anger. And I predicted all of that even with this 4-year 2020. The 4 energy field is the energy of real forgiveness of the past, whether it's for you or we're seeing it in a societal thing we're trying to see shift. And like Ricky talked about, all this issue now of systemic racism, and if we abstract that more, just oppression in general is getting revolted against. In my teachings and in my tradition, the teaching is truth and liberation for all. And that's the new paradigm. And that has started. The rest of the planet hasn't caught up. We're catching it up, and we're going to do what we can to help others. And so it is truth and liberation. That's fucking scary for people that want to hold on to those old ways and those old systems and those old values and a mindset of oppression. People love to also be oppressed.
Yeah.
And people don't often realize it. So I'm just sort of confirming. What's interesting though is just to touch on the sword aspect I was talking about. The 5-year 2021, in Kabbalah, 5 is Gabora, which is power, and it's the symbol of a sword. It's symbolized by a sword, and it's the number of warfare. But on some level, there is a spiritual shift, and there's a confrontation here, and we will win.
Well, I think there's no matter what way you look at it, the confronting, whether you're confronting your own complacency or self-deception, or whether you're confronting something more societal, confronting some of the systems where this kind of Pluto and Saturn and Capricorn represent, however you want to kind of call it, whether it's the old guard of the patriarchy or the elite ruling kind of elite, the Illuminati, however you want to kind of position it, the Anunnaki. I'll be talking to Barbara Henclau about that, who are the kind of the grandfathers of the reptilian race here on planet Earth. However you want to kind of look at it, there is a massive kind of, I feel like this kind of opening of 0 degrees Aquarius is with a very neutral, that the Aquarian kind of neutrality, we can start to look at the ways that we are participating in the systems that are oppressing us, the ways that we've bought and sold ourselves, the ways that's how, the lineages of misappropriated power, how we are consciously or subconsciously participating in that, even in our personal relationships, even with money, even with sex, even with just everything. So I feel like there's, for those of us who came here, which is everyone, anybody listening to this conversation now and in the future, you came here to wake up so that you could carry on your shoulders a new birth, a new world of a new frequency world. You could say that we're in frequency wars. That's what Hadij even calls it. So and some other people are describing it that way. But we're carrying this on our shoulders. There was a prayer that my friend Jose, the Mayan timekeeper, and his one of his elder kind of council, he said, now we have to become the elders. Now we have to become the ancestors embodied on the planet. And it really touched me. I just felt the immediacy and the gravitas of that prayer. And I feel like these upcoming transits, particularly winter solstice, are about that invocation.
Wow. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much for just bringing everything that you're bringing to the world right now. I just cherish you all, and I love you all so much. Thank you for being so brave and wise and kind and real. It's such a gift to humanity.
I love you guys too, and thank you. And it's been an honor to be with you guys.
Thank you.
Likewise.
All right. I hope we can do more of this. I would love to do this in person someday. And we are putting where you can all, I just, can't say enough about getting these wise men to help you to kind of configure your reality right now. All of these men are doing amazing healing and powerful work. So we're going to put all the information on how you can participate in their work here on the watch page and follow them and follow what they're doing. And any last comments, guys?
Well, just
Yeah.
a reminder
Please.
for us to take care of ourselves and to take care of each other.
Thank you, Ricky. Yeah.
I definitely want to say the children, y'all. The Pluto Sagittarius, Pluto Capricorn. If any of you watching have children those age, I mean, you're a revolutionary. Everything you're doing is so important because I think we're getting ready coming into next year to see when I was a kid, this was when we saw corded phones turn into cell phones and then smartphones. And so you have children who were born in, the internet at its prime time. They can't lie to these kids, and they see how all of us are reacting to each other. They're not seeing a community of people who are together. And so this is only going to inspire them to rebel. I feel like we're going to see movements of children really react to that, show us the symptom of a world divided. And it'll be simultaneously terrifying and amazing, but I'm looking to the children because, that's definitely going to, I feel, be both unexpected and highly revealing. And shout out to the young kids out there who are, awakening to this path. God bless y'all, because y'all are going to actually actualize what we're doing right now and how we're paving the way. So
Thank you. We have a lot of amazing young, chronologically young, but very deep and old souls who are watching this and will be watching this and who are awakening to their incarnation coming to the planet right now. So thank you, Michael. Thank you for that prayer. And Remington, any last words?
Everyone said it all. So, but yes, the high vibration of Aquarius is friendship and community, and we're supposed to have a world that is harmonious and that we're all working for each other's betterment. So we're getting there.
We're getting there. I believe in us. I have a Sag moon. I'm an eternal optimist. So bless you all, Satnam, and thank you for being here. And
thanks.
See you sooner than later, I hope.
Love you guys.
Satnam. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Reality Riffing. These are conversations that I think are important with people who are doing great things in the world about subject matters that need to be discussed. If you enjoyed the content, the conversation, please feel free to share with your people, share with your friends and family, rate the podcast below, and also subscribe.